Howdy, folks. How's it going? Life being good to you? Oh, well, let's see. This is my favorite jar in the whole world. It rained about, if I had to guess, between midnight last night and now, maybe 4 or 5 inches. It's been a lot. It's been raining. Excuse me. And, of course, whenever it rains, it seems like I have 8 different reasons to go 3 miles away from home on foot. So that's what I did for part of the day. My dang old grinder is still sticky. I alcoholed it and everything. It's just, I think I've cleaned it and scraped it so many freaking times that it's just pitted and old and full of teeth. That's not the part that sticks, though. It's these parts here. Interesting story, or maybe not. I'll let you decide. I had a really nice pipe and a really nice grinder, and I was paranoid about dragging them all the way across the country from Michigan to here. So I had them on me, thinking that I could ditch them somewhere if I needed to. Well, on the way here in North Dakota, they were running drug dogs all over everything. So I ditched them in the trash. And the grinder that I had, the pipe, it was a cool pipe. Whatevs. I've smashed cooler days after buying them. The grinder, on the other hand, was nothing special. But it was roughly twice the size of this one around. It was about that big around. And it was mahogany with metal pins in it. That had it for close to 20 years. And the reason I liked it is even with really tight nugs, you could pack a 1/4 ounce in there and go grind, 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 grind. And once in a great while, it would get gummed up and you'd have to take a knife and scrape it. And it'd be fine. You just get some, you take a knife and heat it up over a candle and run around the inside of it. And you take the hash off of it. You can smoke that, do hits while you're cleaning it, whatever. But man, do I ever miss that motherfucking grinder. Because these things are just small enough that it feels like my hands are going to explode whenever I try to crank on them. And I don't know why, but I thought you could see that little tiny piece of dust on my screen. So if anybody knows where I can get a wooden grinder about yay big around, about like that, bigger than a hockey puck, which reminds me, on my list of people who can fuck off, to the person who stole my hockey puck, to you it's just a hockey puck. To me, it's a hockey puck that came off the stick of Nicholas Lidstrom. Into this hand, which hurt for a week. So, you're also on the list of people who can fuck off. forever and always, and I hope your herpes gets AIDS. Whatever the opposite of this shit is. Something happened in the world today. I'm oblivious. You guys would have to tell me. Somebody should give me a heads up if there's like any nuclear bombs going off or anything, because I quit giving a fuck. We found a body up the beach here, just a few miles buried in the sand, partially buried in the sand. We're trying to figure out who it is and how it got there. If it came in out of the ocean, they'll know. Or they should by now. They found it yesterday. I read a thing recently that fucking made me laugh, but it also made me think. If you swim in a pool with a dead body in it, you're a fucking weirdo, right? You wouldn't jump in the pool if there's a dead person in it. But there's dead people in the ocean at all times. There's not a given time on the planet when there's not a human body floating in the ocean. Which means somewhere in between the two, there's an acceptable ratio of dead humans to water. And I imagine that threshold is different for different people, you know. I imagine more often than not, there's at least one dead body in one of the Great Lakes at all given times. Interesting thought. The body to water ratio. What's yours? Call 1-800 who the fuck cares to find out what your dead body to water ratio is. We've come up with a scientific approach in calculating so I stopped seeing a friend of mine today, and he likes to play Call of Duty with me when I'm there. So he made me sign into an account and create my own account. And this is like a couple weeks ago, I made the account. And he was like, dude, I just figured out your screen name, what it says today. My screen name is Blazing These Dank Ones. Because that's what I be doing, blazing these dank ones. I keep seeing these posts about stereotypical stoner activities, like everybody else sees a bench, and stoners go, hey, let's go smoke over there. That's totally my life. What do you want to do, Doug? Hey, let's go up on the hill and smoke. Hey, let's go on the beach and smoke. Hey, let's go look for agates and smoke. Hey, let's go watch tourists run the stop sign and get pulled over and smoke. And it's so chill here that I can, like, you know, well, when it's not all touristy and there's 20,000 people, I can go down and sit on one of the benches down on the waterfront and smoke a doobie, and no one's going to say a fucking thing to me. think like a couple weeks ago, I posted some videos of the marina downtown and the sea lions and shit. When I was done with those, I sat down on a log waiting for my ride to pick me up and smoked a doobie. And I was only, a couple blocks from where I was shooting that video. I was out by the crab yards where they stack all the crab pots and shit. And without a single worry. It's so very relaxing to be walking down the 101 smoking a doobie headed home from work, having police roll by me and not care. And say the fucking local cop come over to do a welfare check on my buddy. And the whole time he was there, I was just like that. I'm standing like as close as I am to you, to the screen. He didn't bat an eye. He wasn't trying to hang me up or nothing either, but I was on private property, so he can fuck off. One of the houses that I take care of sits right just adjacent to the 101, like a quick turn onto the 101. And I went up there to check an alarm one night, and there's a cop sitting there, sheriff deputy. So I walked up and tapped on the window. He rolls his window down and says, you can't sit here. He says, excuse me? I said, you can't sit here. I said, this is private property. And I've been instructed by the owner not to let anybody sit here. And he has triple arms at the end of the driveway that send him a text to his phone. And he just called me and told me to go tell you to get out of his driveway. And the sheriff's like, the deputy's like, well, okay then. And he drives off. Well, I take off walking back to the house. I don't even get all the way home. He pulls up on me and he's like, can I get your ID? I'm like, well, of course not. And he says, well, apparently somebody called up to the sheriff's office and said that if I didn't leave that property, they were going to press charges. So I need to file a very clear report about all this, so I'm going to need to get your ID. And at that point, I pulled my phone out of my shirt pocket, double-clicked it, and turned the video on. And I said, I'm not going to give you ID because I have done nothing wrong and you had nothing to detain me for. Nope, I'm out of here, leave me alone, bye. And I walked away from it. Well, dude that I worked for officially trespassed the Lincoln County Sheriff's deputies from any and all of his properties unless they have a warrant or a legal cause to be there. And started this big fucking hullabaloo with them. Well, I ain't got fuck all to do with that. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just the guy that gets paid to tell people to stay out of his yard. The fact that you're a cop just makes it all the better. That's crazy. It's crazy. You shouldn't have to take legal action to keep anybody from trespassing on your property. You shouldn't have to hire a lawyer and threaten to sue somebody to keep them from trespassing on your property, no matter who they are. I don't care if it's the president. You shouldn't have to sue them to keep them from going on your property. The fuck? There's this video of a doctor showing up at his clinic late at night, and there's a deputy parked there doing paperwork in front of the doors of his clinic. And the guy pulls in and gets out, and the cop immediately starts yelling at him. And if I remember, the guy even pulled his gun. The cop even pulled his gun on him and shit, and just fucking. And dude just 100% keeps his cool. Yeah, you can help me. You can leave. You're on my property. This is my property. Leave. Well, how do I know it's your property? Figure it out, Sherlock. He goes over and opens up the door with a key, walks in, starts carrying shit into his clinic. He runs like a clinic for homeless and less fortunate or whatever. And these cops, another one shows up. Instead of him just fucking leaving this dude's private property, another one shows up and they start, oh, we're going to verify who it is. And he's fucking cop hater. You know, I could give you a ticket for coming in here the wrong way. No, the fuck you can't. This is this dude's property. He can drive in whichever fucking way he wants to in this driveway. You can't even enforce traffic laws on private property, you stupid pendick son of a bitch. Getting your fucking... This dude's got so much more cool than I do, and a way better lawyer. I'd have been getting your fucking Barney Fife mobile and get the fuck out of here. Jesus Christ, man. And I watched this guy. I'm trying to remember his name. I actually debated him, tried to debate him on his show. And he sat there and had a 20-minute argument with me in chat, trying to get me to cam up and go live on cam, and I wouldn't do it. But he'll sit there and chat with me about cam up and we'll talk. But he wouldn't answer any of the fucking questions I had. And this guy runs a thing called the Blue Phoenix Foundation for wounded cops or whatever, which I ain't got nothing against. But he's trying to bridge a gap between community and policing. In one of his live streams, he's going on and on about how the public just doesn't understand what it means to be a cop, how hard it is to be a cop, and what you have to do to be a cop. And he's interviewing this other cop about it. This cop's on duty, talking on a fucking podcast for over an hour. Talking about, yeah, I'm just trying to keep my head low and stay out of any shit. And I called him on it. And just, how are you? You're not bridging any gaps, bro. And this guy's a black Christian cop. Think about that. Slavery was around for 400 years because the Bible said it was okay. The first cops were slave catchers. Police enforced Jim Crow. Police enforced segregation. Were the cops on the bridge in Selma good cops? They didn't break the law. What the fuck? Hockey. Any conversation about bridging the gap between law enforcement and the public has to start with end the drug war. Period. For three reasons. Number one, most of the people in prison are in prison in one way or another because of the drug war. Most. Number two, the Gestapo get the lion's share of their budget to go out and do skullduggery and dumb fuckery to the public from drugs, from the war on drugs, from federal funding for the war on drugs, from seizures in the war on drugs, from city funding, state funding. Everybody funds the fucking war on drugs and arms these fucking thugs to go out and beat the fuck out of people over being addicted and throw them in a dungeon and torture them. That's number 2. Number 3 is that the war on drugs is two-faced. It's a tool of oppression here in this country. It's a tool of disruption and disorder everywhere else in the world. It allows us to interfere in sovereign nations, in their governments, in their societies, in their churches. The CIA drug money built mosques all over Pakistan and installed anti-opium, anti-drug imams in all of these mosques from all over Pakistan. And then they filled those schools and mosques with refugees from Afghanistan. And those children were all raised in the extreme right Muslim jihadist tradition. We paid for all of that with drug money. We did. The CIA did. Those kids grew up to be the Taliban. They're the orphans of the people the Russians and the Americans killed during that occupation. And that's number 3. Because as long as this bogus drug war can go on, the shadow governments, whatever the fuck you want to call them, can continue to disrupt nations using this fucking bullshit drug war as a guise. And number 4 is the most important. Treating people who suffer from addiction like criminals is fucking evil. Evil. The drug war has directly affected more lives than Hitler and Mussolini combined. The United States right now has a higher percentage of its population locked up in prison than Mao did, or Stalin did, or Hitler did. %22 of violent crimes get solved. A lot of the violent crimes can be directly linked to the war on drugs. When you criminalize a behavior, the substances surrounding that behavior develops a counterculture, a subculture, a violent criminal subculture. It's a necessity. The same thing happened with alcohol. You know? Oh, by the way, history will show, because it's the facts, but just like during the prohibition of alcohol, the number one purveyors of alcohol in the country turned out to be law enforcement. History's proven that. That's not conjecture, that's fucking fact. The same is going to be true with drugs. The same people that enforce slavery, the same people that enforce Jim Crow, the same people that enforce segregation, the same people that enforce the treatment of the Chinese, the treatment of the Mexicans, the treatment of the Native Americans, the same people that endorse the murdering of millions. They expanded their scope to include everybody that doesn't agree with their agenda. Using the war on drugs. Because everybody does drugs. Everybody from every fucking walk of life does drugs. It's not an accident that the only drugs that are illegal are the ones that make you go, wait a minute, shit's fucked up. What do you mean nuclear energy? I ate 3 tabs of acid last night and taught myself physics, and I don't agree. There is no such thing as clean coal. Those are the drugs that are illegal, are the ones that make you have them kind of thoughts. You have all the fucking Zoloft you want. Here's an idea I had. There's a lot of money in tearing apart electronics, right? Couldn't I hire tweakers to come over to my house and tear electronics apart? Is that unethical? I mean, if I can get $5 a VCR selling the parts, what if I got to pay tweakers to tear them apart? Because I know if I leave screwdrivers and flashlights all over the house and VCRs and a gram of meth, that they will fucking tear them apart. Why is this not a thing, man? If you've ever met tweakers, you know they belong in a shop somewhere tearing apart electronics. It's their mecca. If you take them in one of them container ships in China, where the Chinese people come out like ants and tear apart the computers into little tiny components and break them down into their little bags, tweakers would just get down on their knees and start doing this shit. Fucking smoke a bowl. Oh, they're off. They're in fucking. It's like the Muslims at the Big Rock or whatever. They're home. Why is no one working on realistic issues like this? There's solutions to almost every fucking problem, if you look. Why don't deaf people get first dibs on the houses by the airport? I think a blind person who has a penthouse is just a fucking waste of time. Why would you do that? I mean, I guess you want to be nice to your guests and give them a wonderful view, but that's a lot of money to pay for something you can't see. If I was blind, I wouldn't even have windows. Fuck it. Why do I care? I wouldn't pay for this shit. Just build me a square box, man. What the fuck do I want windows for? I'm blind. Just added expense. Anyway, it's been a long day. This was a nice joint. If you're still here, you must love me. Thanks for hanging out.